Welcome to the K. Willis Positive Vibes Podcast. K. Willis Positive Vibes Talk Show on 1580thepraise.com, a Gold Chip communication station. And I have Miss Kim Goodwin-Martin. She is the daughter of Marva Scott.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so let me tell you guys about the Wingo Sisters. The Wingo Sisters, Babs, Wingo, Ethel Johnson, and Marva Scott, they were pioneering African-American women in professional wrestling during the 1950s through the 1970s. Born in Decatur, Georgia.
Absolutely.
Come on now. And raised in Columbus, Ohio.
Yep.
They broke racial and gender barriers in the segregated and male-dominated sports. Bab Wingo was the first black woman to enter the wrestling ring, followed by her sisters Ethel Johnson and Marva Scott. Ethel Johnson became known for her speed and agility, while Marva Scott wrestling under various ring names, including African Black Cat. Come on, Black Cat.
She was the African Princess Lioness, too.
Come on, African Princess Lioness. Well, she was recognized for her strength and charisma. Together, they not only entertained audience worldwide, but also paved the way for future generations of female wrestlers. Their contributions were honored with inductions into the Women's Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2023.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so
yes.
how was that, since we're going to go ahead and get into that?
Okay, well, first of all, let me just say this. Them getting into the Women's Wrestling Hall of Fame was an all-time high for me because they are all deceased, and that was the first time that they actually got credit for wrestling.
Come on
Like,
now.
you know, okay, so now I meant as collectively.
Yes.
Right? So a little bit about them is my Aunt Babs was the first to wrestle, right? And she was actually discovered right here in Columbus, Ohio, on East Long Street. She was working as a coat check girl. The gentleman by the name of Billy Wolf walked over to her. It was right about the same time that baseball was integrated with Jackie Robinson. And so Billy Wolf thought, I want to do the same thing, but I want to do it with black women. And so my Aunt Babs was the first female lady wrestler ever. And she actually was the first interracial champion because when she wrestled back in 1950s, and she became the first interracial champion in Atlanta, Georgia, August the 24th, 1954. She wrestled Mildred Burke for 1 hour and 3 minutes.
Wow.
That's a long time.
Yes.
So she was the first interracial champion. My Aunt Ethel was the first Negro champion. Now, my Aunt Ethel was fast and quick, and her and my Aunt Babs developed the standing drop kick, which you see them do today, and the flying scissors. So they created some of the moves that the wrestling people do right now. Before they started wrestling, it was just tussling. Like, you know, they would just grab each other and throw each other down in the ring and hit each other. But my family became known here in Columbus for the people who knew that they were wrestlers and knew that they were sisters. They were called the Flying Wingo Sisters because they would be acrobatic and jump all around the ring. My mother was the youngest of the three, and my mother was the first to ever get on the Ring magazine, the Wrestling Ring magazine, the first black woman to ever grace the cover in 1972.
Okay.
And there wasn't another sister on there until 2015.
Wow.
Yes. So, you know, it is like their history is really rich. And the fact that they were right here in Columbus, Ohio, and people don't know is just not unbelievable because they did not talk about it. But now I need everybody to know. Like,
we need everybody to know.
Yes, you need to know that the history of wrestling began right here in Reynoldsburg. You know, they had a gym called the Taft Gym, and that's where they would practice. They would practice at the Y downtown and do all their moves and learn everything. So, like, they have connections with the Y and with Reynoldsburg. And so without them, there would be no lady wrestling today. They really changed. When I say they changed the game, they created the road. Like, you know how the road is already built and people get on the road? No, they made the road. They were the first black sisters to ever wrestle. And I think to this day, they're the only 3 black sisters to ever wrestle. Like, there's twins that wrestle, but for all three of them to be wrestling at the same time during those times was unbelievable. And just know this, they were all in high school. None of them were in their 20s. My Aunt Babs was 17 when she was recruited, and she went to South High School.
Wow.
My Aunt Ethel was 16. No, my Aunt Ethel went in at 15, and my mother went in at 16. And my mother was going to East High School at the time.
Okay.
So, it was like, do I go to school or do I get out here on the road and make this money? And when I tell you that they went all over the world, they literally, figuratively went all over the world. They wrestled in Japan, Australia, Cuba, New Mexico, Canada, just to name a few. Yes. So they were like international stars during the 1950s, and they wrestled all the way up to the 70s. Well, my mother was the last one. She wrestled until the 70s, so she was in the wrestling game for 3 generations. Well, 30 years she wrestled. For 30 years. She did, so. Yeah, so I mean, like when you think about it, and if you look at wrestling now, then you just need to know all of those ladies that are there on the backs of my family, which if they were here, they would be over the moon.
Yes.
Because WWE, NXT, Fourth Rope, all of those guys are really doing it, and those girls can really wrestle. Like they really know what they're doing. They're athletic. I mean, if you watch them now, you're like, whoa. I mean, like they're doing backflips and flipping off the ropes and doing all kind of, crazy stuff, but they're actually headlining, and so my family was one of the first to headline, and like some of their clippings and stuff, you'll see like Bobo Brazil, the Sheik, the Iron Sheik, Gorgeous George, right? And then you'll see in big letters, Ethel Johnson versus Marva Scott. And so that would let us know who the draw was by the bigger their name was on the brochures. And so, people actually came out to see them because they were so great.
Come on, shout out to the Wingo Sisters making history. Woo! But let me tell you something. Shout out to them. So my brothers, if they're listening, so I'm the only girl, right?
Me too.
Okay. So my brothers, they used to have me wrestle because it's 4 of us.
Right.
So tag team. And then, so my niece, she's the only girl.
Okay.
So her brothers, they love wrestling. Like, this is good. My nieces and nephews gonna love it because they love wrestling. Like,
oh my God.
My nephew thinks he's Hulk Hogan.
Okay.
He like the old school wrestling.
Like the old
Shawn
school
Michaels,
okay.
Hulk Hogan. Like, I'm gonna show you a video.
Okay.
When we finish the interview, you're like, yeah, they love wrestling.
Yeah.
And my niece actually loves it. So me, I just felt like I had to do it because it's like, okay. But my niece, she loves. Yes, so I come from a wrestling family. So thank you to the Wingo Sisters. Yes, my niece that I need your autograph. Yes, we're gonna definitely get
whatever you need. I got you.
Yes,
I got you.
We're gonna have to. Yes, and the pictures because they are gonna love. I'm like, her mom's the first woman, but her mom and her sister's the first woman wrestlers. I'm like, oh wow,
in history,
history.
Like that. When you think about that, before that, like. There were like vaudeville shows maybe, but they were the first professional lady wrestlers. And it was kind of like, if you think about, what is that? Berry Gordy, right? And how they did grooming in Motown. It was the same sort of thing. They were trained, they were taught. They couldn't tell people they were married. No one knew they had kids. They had to be a lady. They weren't allowed to be smoking cigarettes and stuff out in public, and so they made it beautiful because they were beautiful ladies and they could wrestle at the same time. So that's what made it so exciting, and then they had fur coats and, and they was flying everywhere and, living a life, It appeared they were living a life. Let's just say that, There's a lot of dark sides to all of that. But just to think that they were 15, 16, 17 years old and traveling the world, the world when it was so much racial tension and desegregation. And they just, I don't know. It had to be God because they did not see fear. Like, like until they were in situations. And then when they were in situations, they knew how to get out of them, and so, I mean, because back then it was really, really a hard time. Sometimes they would go down south and the segregated South and, they had the sundown rules, you
Yes.
know, and they had to stay in sundown towns. And so when they would stay there into the sundown towns and, you know, and follow the Green Book, then they would be rooming with like the Harlem Globetrotters.
Oh, wow.
What's his Nat King Cole,
Okay, Nat King
Little
Cole.
Richard, you know, and you know, so they would go right behind Tina Turner. If Tina Turner and Ike and Tina Turner would be there on Saturday, then when they would leave on Saturday, they would roll in on Sunday. So they used to travel around, and you know, during that time, you had to be in certain places. You were not allowed to be out, and so there were many times that their life was really, you know, in danger. Yes, yes. So the fact that they did that was, you know, whew, I mean, I think back on it now, and Trinity Fatu, the WWE wrestler right now, she's you know, she's a heel right now, and I love it. Go Trinity!
Go Trinity!
She actually also plays my Aunt Ethel in the movie Queen of the Ring.
Okay.
And I had an opportunity to meet her and some of the ladies that played my family. But she had an article that she wrote for, I think it was Vibe magazine, and she was saying how she don't think she could have endured any of the things that they did, but she was really grateful that they did. And for me, it's nice to know that all of the women wrestlers now know who they are,
Yes.
because before they didn't even know, right? They had no idea who they were and what their contributions were until this guy by the name of Ash Alvin decided to do this movie called Queen of the Ring.
Okay, Ash Alvin.
Yes, and he's an independent filmmaker. If you want to check it out, it's called The Queen of the Ring, and it's on Apple TV now.
Ooh.
It was in the theaters, and I mean, it did really good. It's about Mildred Burke. She was the first millionaire athlete, right? Woman or man,
Come on
the
now.
first millionaire athlete. Now, just so you know, 1950s and 60s, women could not have bank accounts. They
Right.
could not have checking accounts or any of that. Everything had to go underneath their husband. I mean, she actually did work with her husband, but she was the first millionaire athlete.
Shout out. Come on, Mildred Burke.
And she ended up being a single mother, you know, raising her son. And the story tells her story about how she overcame different things and some of the things that she went through. But my family is included in this movie because her and her husband were the first to bring the Wingo Sisters to wrestling. So they have a pretty big part in the movie where, you know, like my Aunt Ethel and my mother and my Aunt Babs actually walk in, and they call them the Wingo Sisters. And then after that, my Aunt Babs really has most of the parts, but it makes sense because she was the first wrestler. Yes. You know, and so that's how, you know, they actually made it to the big screen. And so let me just say I'm grateful for that too, because God will put people
Come on
in
now.
places, and sometimes you don't know until you get there, and then that spiritual connection
Yes.
happens. And you're like, what? Because when I went to see Ash, because listen, they're making a movie and my family's in it, and nobody called me, like, what? That's when I found out all the things about movies too. They don't have to call you. Guess what? They do not have to call you.
Oh,
you know,
wow.
they can call you if they want to, but it's called, what is it? Not intellectual property, but bottom line is it belongs to everybody once you put it on the internet.
Oh, wow.
So anything that they did in the past, you know, anybody could write a movie or write a story. The perfect example is like Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson did that movie where he stood up and he was talking, and then Netflix later on did the same movie without him. He got zero royalties because once it hits public domain, then it can be anybody's story. So my thing was, I wanted them to be represented properly, because in the past they were misrepresented, and it kind of, you know, it just made us mad. But then we had to grow up and realize, how are you upset when they just don't know? Right? But I didn't care whether or not they knew at that time. And so, you know, I just went nuts. So this time when I heard about the movie, I was like, I'm going to sweep myself up on the set.
I know that's
Because I
right.
heard they in Kentucky, and I'm getting ready to take my broom and be like, how you doing? Oh, yeah, my name is Kim. You talking
I'm
about
Marva Scott, my daughter.
you talk about my family, you know, because one guy had called and actually told me that they were recording the match between my Aunt Babs and Mildred Burke. And he said after they got to watch the movie and all, I'm like, what? They actually have footage of that. Okay, I want that too. I really want that too. I want to get a hold of that footage. But that's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna sweep myself right on the set. Soon as I got ready to sweep myself on the set, it was a wrap, movie cut, done. So I had to wait, and it was almost 2 years. And then this November, they had a film festival, and I just said, guess what? I'm showing up. So Fort Lauderdale, Florida, me and my best friend Cynthia went.
Oh, yes. Hey, Cynthia.
She was like, I got your back, girl. Let's go. So we flew out and I was able to meet Ash. And when I talked to him, it was just like, it was such an electric connection. One thing that I've always said is this her story history, right? Yes. And I always make sure I write the her in big letters. And so he had a trailer for his movie that I had never seen. And he actually sent me the passcode and let me look at the trailer. And the trailer had her story history. So we knew I knew at that point that it was spiritual and we were connected. And so I appreciate him and all of his staff, Ashley McCann. I mean, like, you know, it's Sumerian Records and Sumerian Productions, and so they're out of Nashville, Tennessee, and I just appreciate that he put my family in the movie. He finally, what I've been trying to scream from the rooftops, put it on the big screen. And the first time I seen it, I was taken back. I couldn't even hear what they were saying. All I heard was the Wingo Sisters, and I started cheering. Right?
Look like me. I'm like, hey.
And bootlegging, and then I'm like, oh my God, I'm not supposed to be bootlegging. Okay, but I'm bootlegging this part right here, you know. So it was just really exciting to see them. So I seen the movie, I don't know how many times, because I seen it in Fort Lauderdale, I seen it in Kentucky, I saw it in New York, and I saw it in Texas. I saw that movie. Then I saw it here with a group of my friends. But every time I saw it, I was able to take something more from it. And it is really a feel good, have you cheering movie. My daughter went, she was, go Millie at the end. And I was looking at her like, no, your aunt really won that. But we're going to just do this right here.
It's the movie.
Right. And that's the other thing people have to understand. People have creative right to do whatever they want to do with their movie. It's not a documentary. Because a lot of people are like, oh, your family's in the movie. Did you get paid? No, people, that's not how it works. Right. You know, you have to thank God for any advantage that you get and for any opportunity that you have. And guess what? With knowledge comes wisdom. With wisdom comes wealth. So we're in the wisdom stages.
Come on, wisdom
stages. That's where we at, and my goals are not to be wealthy, but if God sees that for it to happen, fine. My goals is to get them on the Long Street Bridge, or have a street named after them, or right here in Columbus, to have them in all the historical places that they belong in the Hall of Fame, and definitely in that Smithsonian in DC. They might be trying to tear it down, but I'm still putting stuff in it.
Come on now.
Okay, and that's what we have to do. We have to make sure that we do not give up our history. And so I am pretty much the only one in the family that knows a lot of the background. But my other cousins, I do not want people to think they're not included. I have a cousin, Shelly, and her mother is Ethel Johnson, and Shelly helps out tremendously. She's actually the reason that we had a documentary made.
Oh, congratulations. And so, come on, shout out Shelly.
Yes, Shelly Adams in the building.
Come on, Shelly Adams.
And the documentary guy, his name is Chris Bournier, and you can actually watch the movie on, what is it, Netflix?
Okay.
I think it's Netflix. Yep, it's on Netflix, and it's called Lady Wrestler by Chris Bournier. And so that movie has the only interview of my Aunt Ethel. The only one, because she never did interviews. They never talked about it. And so my cousin Shelly, realized that her mother was getting up in age. And by that time, my mother had already passed on. My Aunt Babs had passed, and they both passed the same year. Wow. Like months apart. My Aunt Babs passed first, and then my mother passed second. My Aunt Babs had a stroke, and my mother had cancer. So it left just my Aunt Ethel here. And then my cousin was like, man, maybe now she might want to talk about it. And so she had a friend that worked for the Columbus Dispatch. He reached out to Chris Bournier. Chris Bournier came over, made my aunt feel really comfortable. And so it took him about 5 or 6 years to do this documentary, but he actually had it finished. And so on that documentary, you can actually hear my aunt speak in her own words about her experiences. So, I mean, that right there was just awesome. So Shelly is definitely a good help. And then my Aunt Babs has a son and a daughter. Her son's name is Kenny Gentry.
Okay.
And Kenny lives in, where he live in Colorado. And so, you know, he calls me and, you know, we talk all the time because they know that we need to work really hard to try to get our family's legacy put in history. Because I just want my kids to know where they came from. You know, and that the word no was not even in the vocabulary. You know, afraid was not in the vocabulary. More like warriors was in the vocabulary.
I love warriors.
So I want them to know that. And I just want any kid, no matter what color they are, to be able to see the strength of a woman, right?
Yes.
Because it's amazing to think the things that they were doing during the time that they were doing it.
Absolutely. So that's the generational wealth, though. Like I said, generations, and history to let the generations know. We are history makers. We're going to continue to make histories. You know, it's a lot of stuff that we are going to do, and these are the people who started it in our family.
You know, and listen, it is so, like exciting. So I have a website. If you guys want to go to the website, it is www.thewingosisters.com. On that website, you can look and you can see the pictures. You can, you know, send me notes, messages, you know, and you can help me do whatever it is I need to do, whether post or stuff like that, because I'm really, really trying to put forth some effort so that they get on that wall on Long Street. Like, I've already picked my space out, and you know what God said, everywhere you put your foot is yours. And and just call me Abraham, because I got some serious faith, okay?
Come on now.
some serious faith. So when I see it, I speak it, I know what's going to happen. You know, I'm just like, when? But I also realize I'll let God tell me what to do.
Yes.
You know, and in that process of meeting Ash and meeting people, I want to definitely shout out the guys to the Fourth Rope, right? So let me just tell you a little bit about them.
Yes.
These guys are called Fourth Rope.
Okay.
It is West Side Guns, Smoke Dizza, and Flash Garments. Okay. Now, right. Okay. So, to be honest, I didn't know them from anything, but there was a young man that worked with Ash at Sumerian Records, and he called me and he told me that he wanted me to meet these guys.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so sometimes we can get in our own way, and I kind of got in my own way, and I have no problem saying that, because one thing about stuff is we need to be transparent.
Yes,
because
on.
Sometimes we are judgmental and don't even realize that we being judgmental.
Yes.
God is sending you somewhere to do something, and you think he's sending there for you to get something, and then you get the lines crossed, right? And what I mean by that is iron sharpens iron.
Come on.
So I needed to go and talk to them young men, and them young men needed to talk to me, but I listened to some of their music and was like, oh my God. Okay. And so what ended up happening is, because God is who he is, he's like, all right, I'm gonna let you get that off. I went to New York and met them on the red carpet.
Oh, wow.
And met a young lady. And when I met them, Tyavia is her name.
That's a pretty name.
And when I met her, it was like the energy and the spirit of her was so beautiful, right? That I said, hold up. I need to go. I need to meet these guys, because they wanted to do a tournament and name it after my Aunt Babs, called the Babs Wingo Battle Royale. And I was like, well, I don't know how many times you were using it. You know, I just got caught up on some silly stuff. But once I met them in New York and I saw them and they saw me, then I knew that I needed to go to Texas. So, because that's where the Battle Royale was going to be, and it was at Southwest by Southwest.
Okay.
So I said, well, let me go. And when I tell you, I had the most beautiful experience, right? Because I found out that they are way more than you could ever imagine. They are designers. They design clothes. They have their own record label. They are real artists. They love real art. Van Gogh. They are family men. They take care of their kids. They are kings.
Shout out, King.
And and when I met them, it was just so electric. Right. And so they allowed me to come, and they allowed me to talk, and they allowed me to talk about my aunt. And they were the first people to ever give my Aunt Babs her roses. And when I tell you that I am watching them all the time, and I see them excelling in everything that they're doing, to the degree that they're having wrestling matches in France, just like WWE, just like NTW, NXT, and all the rest of them. And that is amazing, because they are the only Black-owned wrestling company. So they need...
Yeah, so is it kind of like the big three, like how Ice Cube has his own basketball, but they're doing theirs with wrestling.
They're doing it with wrestling.
Okay.
They're doing it with wrestling.
See?
And they are going to be crossing over with the WWE, because they have bloodline connections. But it's just watching them and seeing how they maneuver is amazing. Like, I mean, they do it all. I'm like, man, like they're in Texas on Tuesday with me talking and laughing, and on Thursday
They in France.
they in England.
They in England.
Yes, they was in England. Like, we're in England. I'm like, what? Y'all just left. We're in Australia. And so they're always on the go, but they're always doing things that are positive. And one of the conversations that I was able to have with the One Flash Garments was about the movie, and we just connected on so many levels. And he's like, yeah, me and Floyd went to the movie, Floyd Mayweather. Yeah, I said, what? Okay, so that just lets you know right there. And I just started laughing, because he shared some things with me about Floyd. And I told him, hey, have Floyd call me, because we can fix all of the stuff that he's talking about with this movie. We can fix that. So I don't know if he's done that yet, but you need to do that, Flash. You need to make that conversation happen.
Make that conversation happen.
But I definitely want to give them all a shout out. And Miss Tyavia, who is like, she used to be like the talent for WWE. So she managed the talent. And she's a sister, which, okay, she was the only one at WWE. So every time you meet somebody, you realize that, again, they have a footprint in something, and they're making history. And that, for me, is amazing, because history can still be made today.
Absolutely. And you're making history right now.
Girl, that part. And you invited me on here to talk about my family.
Come on now. I love it. Like I said, I have a connection with the wrestling, because as a kid, like, I had to wrestle. And then my niece, she loved wrestling. Yes. So it's like, it's a real good connection. But I know you mentioned the website earlier, the www.thewingosisters.com. And how else can we reach you?
Well, you know what? You can catch me on Instagram.
Come on, Instagram.
I am under Marva, the official _ Marva Scott Lady Wrestler page. You can find me on that. You can find me on Facebook. On Facebook, I go as Kim Goodwin-Martin, because I had too many, I have to try to keep up, y'all. They call me an auntie, so that's the age group I'm in now, where you called auntie. I take that as respect, because I'm glad to be
I'm
here.
auntie too.
No, but everybody call you auntie when you get this age. They be like, hey, auntie. I was like, that's the nice way of saying you old, but I'll take that. Because that's their way of showing respect. Back in the day, we'd be like, what up, bro? Hey, sis. But that's how we loved each other, though. So I can handle auntie. That's a whole lot better than some of the other stuff.
I like auntie too. Yes. And thank you again for coming on here. We're going to do part 2. So I can't wait. And we always upload everything on YouTube as well. So this will be uploaded on K. Willis Positive Vibes Podcast on YouTube.
Well, I will definitely be sharing that.
Absolutely. And if you guys want to be a sponsor of the show, you could be a sponsor of the show. You can email me at kwillispositivevibestalkshow@gmail.com. And thank you for tuning in to the K. Willis Positive Vibes Talk Show on 1580thepraise.com, a Gold Chip communication station. Please like, share, and subscribe to the K. Willis Positive Vibes Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the K. Willis Positive Vibes Podcast. Please order my book, The Principles of Overcoming Life's Obstacles, a 31-day journey to positive living, available on Amazon.com. Until next time, stay positive.